Trust you enjoyed your lunch. We're going to get going with our next round of presentations. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is Warwick Sears. I'm the Executive Director of the Okanagan Basin Water Board, and together with the BC Water and Waste Association, we're co-hosting this conference. So, welcome. I have a great pleasure today to introduce Brock Dolman. We invited him here as a speaker from Northern California. Now, I used to work down in the same watershed as Brock, and I knew him as a local guy, fisheries expert, really knowledgeable. He was a reviewer on a watershed plan that I was working at. We sat on the same committees, and you know, we had a good collegial relationship. And then one time we were having one of these little what's happening in the watershed workshops, and this was about 6 years ago. And I gave my little talk on weed management, and then Brock came on, and his talk, and I think it was on salmon, just knocked my socks off. I was like, here is this jewel in our midst of a speaker, and I was totally impressed with it. And then I think it was last year, I had gone back down to California to attend a conference, and it was quite a large conference, the Pioneers, and there was about, I don't know, 800 people there, and they were streaming it live internationally, and there was Brock as like a plenary speaker, and I was like, wow, he's gone big time. And it turned out that the topic that he talked on last year was a topic that related directly to a lot of the issues that we're experiencing here in British Columbia, and this is kind of joining together these ideas about watershed management, stormwater, going from personal responsibility up to this bigger picture perspective about why we're all doing this, and linking it to climate change. And I thought, this is a terrific presentation, and I would love to see Brock come and do this in the Okanagan. So as we had been talking about doing this kind of rain to resource conference for quite a while, and so I kept that kind of simmering in the back of my mind. And then when we received the funding from NRCan and all this started coming together, we were talking about keynote speakers, and I immediately thought of Brock, and I was delighted that he was able to come. And I'm delighted that he can share with you his insight on water management. So thank you, Brock.
Can y'all hear me if I stand back? Just pick it up. You get mic there? A little bit, yeah? Well, all right. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Everybody's got a big belly full of food. This is one of the speaker's nightmare moments, right? You got blood down there. But thanks for having me, and thanks, Anna, for inviting me up. And we certainly miss Anna's prowess down there, and you all are lucky to have her. And I gather from the folks I talked to, you guys recognize that. So I'm really happy to be here. And I'm the gal, I think her name was Jody. Jody, remember that? Mentioned yesterday that you're a biologist, and you're like, well, what was I doing in this building thing? And I'm in the same boat. I was a kid, came out the womb kicking and screaming, chasing creepy, crawly, slimy, venomous, thorny, muddy-looking creatures and such. And ultimately, they increasingly became more and more rare and hard to find. And I went to college and became a wildlife biologist with a specialization in endangered species vertebrates. And it became pretty clear to me that human land use in its multivariate forms is the driver behind these processes pushing these species to rarity or extinction. And that really led me to wondering, well, what's up with human land use? And so I come to this work not as a civil engineer, I'm not a hydrologist, I'm just a biologist trying to figure out how to work with you bipedal saxosaline solution here and get you onto a path that's good for critters, or better for critters, us included as critters. We are animals as far as I remember. I live and work in a place in western Sonoma County, which is about an hour and a half north of San Francisco. It's a coastal county, redwoods, beach, wine country. We're better than Napa, right? I don't know about Okanagan yet. I look forward to keep sampling your wines up here. And I live on this 80-acre parcel, and there's 11 of us who co-own this piece of ground together. It's an intentional community. And we've got a bunch of houses. If anyone knows of the Farallones Institute, if you've got an appropriate technology history background, this is the rural center for the Farallones Institute. And there's kids and families and folks. It's a residential community. There's about 25 that live there. Then we've got programs and workshops. And I call it an intentional community because as a biologist, I'm interested in living intentionally with both the human side of things, but ultimately with all life forms. How do we have intentional community with all life? And those are just critters we live with. And we're a educational demonstration organic farm. We're the 6th oldest certified organic farm in the state of California. And we produce all kinds of food, and it's lovely, yummy food. We have a seed-saving collection. We have about 3,000 varieties of open pollinated heirloom vegetables, seeds, medicinal plants, that kind of stuff, and fruit, and that's part of our work. And ultimately, getting to water, the clarity for us is no water, no food. And a lot of folks talk about food security, but water security is on an order of magnitude more important, I think. And this is our pond. It's just a rain catchment pond. It fills up when it rains, tops off, and then we use it as a big water tank. It's about a 2 million gallon water hole there. It's a great place to go in the, obviously swimming in the summer. As of 4 days ago, I wasn't there, but I heard we just got 9.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. We got 13.5 inches of rain in basically a day and a half in October. Like, we never get that kind of rain, and if we're gonna get it, it would be December or January. So leading into this realm of trying to, what I call basins of relations, and how do you think like a watershed, in this case the Okanagan watershed, and the linkage to climate change, what I like to call, there's climate change, global warming, but I think the proper phrase we should really think about it is really global weirding, right? Because that tail of the snake's just going to get more erratic and more intense, and we've heard a lot of really good information this weekend. And so I had a presentation before, and then after yesterday and today, I adjusted a whole bunch of this, to be honest with you, because I want to give props to everybody I heard, all the speakers I heard, as far as the engineering, the technical know-how, the implementation, the policy stuff, the thinking it through, your water balance, understanding. You guys are, I just give you props. You're as far on the cutting edge of this work as anybody I know down in the States. And I think that I'm just really impressed by the work you're doing, so I want to give you all some props here in reverse. So how is it that a biologist ends up running a nonprofit that I call the Water Institute, where I'm really looking at watershed, and how do we do advocacy, training, education, research, and restoration on behalf of water? And somebody said earlier this morning, I forget his name, one of the mayors, that talked about in climate change where the mitigation side is really a CO2 question, the carbon dioxide question, but the adaptation side is really a water-sided issue. And that's, I want to weave that story through, because I am very much in line with that notion. First of all, I need to disavow you of something, that if you believe this entity here is called planet Earth, you've been misled. It's really planet water. If you think about it, as you look, and we're looking around the planets and such that we know, this is the water planet. 70% of the surface of this planet is water. If you take the volume of water, it's 97% is in the oceans, 2% the poles and glaciers, deep groundwater, and then we got 1% of fresh water. And I'll get more into that relationship of those 3 phase states. So I think that becomes really critical to this discussion. I know there's a lot of excitement that we get to colonize the moon because we found some solid water on the dark side there. As far as I can tell, we can't even manage water budgets on planet water. It's not clear to me we're going to do very well on the moon. I'm happy to pay for people's tickets who want to go up to the moon and get them off of here so we can get back to living on a beautiful planet. Scientifically, we know this is a molecule, right? H2O. And I think generally it's understood that's the magic Mickey Mouse molecule. It's got those 2 hydrogeneers, that big oxygen face, got the plus charges on the hydrogen, that negative charge. It's a polar molecule, a bipolar molecule. I always thought bipolar was a real estate opportunity in the Arctic, but, or something you need to take a pharmaceutical for. But it's really cool that this molecule has this charge. It does amazing things. I mean, imagine this substance, and right, that as a solid, it floats on its liquid self, and you could hit a solid with sunlight and go into a gas without even becoming a liquid. Like, my task as I reoriented my slides was to feel like you guys are drilled down, you got the technology really well, the techniques, the implementation stuff. And so I'm feeling like I just want to bring you back here at the end with the bases loaded. I know the Giants are winning. Bad metaphor here, but go San Francisco. Be clear about it. This is about California and Texas, in my mind. Left and right and red and blue, and there's a lot riding on this game down in the middle. So go Giants. Just to get back a little bit and just trip out on the wonder of this amazing, amazing molecule, this thing called water. And if ice sank, wow, all bets would be off, right? And this whole thing of the water cycle, there was a poll out a couple years ago in America where they asked people to name one part of the water cycle, and 50% of the people polled were basically silent. They couldn't say lake, rain, toilet, bottle, water. They were silent. So the level of hydrological illiteracy is of epidemic proportion, I would argue, down where I come from. I mean, it's job security for those of us who make a living trying to educate folks in this realm. Water's a noun. It's a thing. You can ski on it and throw a snowball and drink it and swim on it. But it's kind of a verb, if you think. And that's the interesting thing about water, is the total water on the planet is absolutely finite. The volume of that water, what phase state it in is what changes, where it's apportioned, but the volume is finite. But because it's based on an annual solar-driven cycle, its renewal into your watershed annually is infinite, or at least we hope so. So it's really different than certain resources that are truly finite, like fossil fuels. Like the planet only put so much carbon away a while ago, and we're not making any more of that at any rate that's useful. But water's it's infinitely finite if you get the dance with the noun-verb game I'm playing with here. And what we ultimately realize, I think, is that the water cycle and the life cycle are the same dang cycle. There's no separation in that cycle. And sustainability, I would argue, is about your ability to sustain the cycles of life. And this, we can talk about earth and air and fire and water, those elemental forces that create conditions conducive for life. But at some level, if we don't have the ability through our settlement patterns to sustain processes that honor the cycles of life, and you compromise those cycles, your carrying capacity in that place will be compromised. That would be my argument on this one. Every living organism on the planet, when it's actively alive and well, is by volume mostly water, right? And that's hopefully the case in this room. We should propose a toast. Coca-Cola is mostly water, but you guys should stay hydrated. Being hydrated is the most important thing you can do. Right? It's hard to fathom, but as a human baby, they're pushing 80% plus water when they're born, and the older you get, the less by water you are volumetrically, and death is a function of dehydration for hominids and watersheds. And so this cycling of water becomes really critical, and it leads some to a reverential relationship with rehydration, if you will. I did a trip to eastern Tibet, southwestern China this last year with a film crew, a Tibetan film crew, seeking out sacred headwater Buddhist shrines and temples up in the Himalaya, and looking at climate change and glacial recession. And these folks, their expression of water is bordering on reverential flotsam. I mean, you've never seen so many prayer flags. And they have these amazing every little creek in the watersheds as you're driving around have these little water-powered prayer wheels, right? So there's a little bit of water here, and it's turning a little paddle wheel that's turning these prayer wheels, and they're just putting out prayers to the watershed. And I was pretty impressed by just the dedication of that culture. I'm not that accustomed to it. I mean, in America, we deeply revere water, right? We honor it, you know. As they say, I guess, if the solution to pollution is dilution, then having some pure water nearby can help get that donut down your gullet there is a good business model. It's a stack function game there. If you're banking on the fallacious filtration fetish that a corporation is going to be providing you with the substance that you need to survive via a plastic bottle, I would argue that you may be a tad bit. I didn't name that corporation, the French did, and they're super clear that if you're willing to pay them 3,000% for bottled water that's unregulated, when coming out of your tap with better regulation, at least where I come from, the percentage on that is so much less, then they're happy to take your money, for sure.